The global economy is like a ship sailing into a storm. The waves are crashing harder and the winds are howling louder. The once calm seas are now a turbulent and unpredictable force. The seas are getting rougher and the horizon looks ominous. The winds are picking up, threatening to capsize the vessel. And the ship is carrying a dangerous, load debt. This burden is growing heavier by the day. Around the world, countries are facing a growing debt crisis. From Egypt to Argentina, Lebanon to Turkey, the financial strain is becoming unbearable. Nations are struggling to manage their debts. The situation is serious and demands immediate attention. It threatens to destabilize the global economy, creating a ripple effect that could impact every corner of the world. This is not just a problem for economists or financial experts, it affects all of us. Every individual, every family, every community. When economies falter, people suffer. Jobs disappear, prices rise, businesses close their doors, and the future seems uncertain. The anxiety is palpable. We must understand the causes of this debt crisis and find ways to address it. Solutions must be found. The stability of the world depends on it. International cooperation is crucial. The world has faced debt crises before. History has shown us the devastating effects, but this one feels different. It is more widespread and pervasive. It is more deeply rooted in the fabric of our global economy. And it is happening at a time when the global economy is already fragile. The interconnectedness of our world makes it even more precarious. The COVID-19 pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and rising interest rates have all taken their toll. These events have compounded the crisis. These shocks have exposed the weaknesses in the global financial system. The situation is complex and multifaceted. There are no easy answers. The path forward is fraught with challenges, but one thing is clear: we cannot afford to ignore this crisis. The urgency cannot be overstated. We must act now to prevent a global economic catastrophe. The time for action is now. Egypt, a nation at the crossroads of continents, is facing an economic crisis of immense proportions. This ancient land, known for its rich history and cultural heritage, is now grappling with modern financial challenges that threaten its stability. The country is burdened by a mountain of debt, accumulated over years of economic mismanagement and external shocks. This debt has reached unsustainable levels, threatening to cripple the Egyptian economy. The government is struggling to find ways to manage this overwhelming financial burden. Economists warn that without significant reforms, the situation could deteriorate further. The Egyptian pound has plummeted in value, causing the cost of imports to skyrocket. This devaluation has had a ripple effect throughout the economy, making everyday life increasingly difficult for ordinary Egyptians. For ordinary Egyptians, the situation is dire. Prices for basic goods, especially food, have soared, putting immense pressure on household budgets. Many are struggling to make ends meet, with some families having to make tough choices about their daily needs. The government has been forced to take drastic measures, including seeking assistance from the International Monetary Fund. This move, while necessary, comes with its own set of challenges and conditions. The path to economic recovery is long and arduous. The Egyptian government is caught in a difficult position, needing to reduce spending to get its finances in order. But these austerity measures risk further hurting the economy and fueling social unrest. Finding the right balance between fiscal responsibility and social protection is crucial for Egypt's stability. The government is under immense pressure to implement reforms that will stabilize the economy without causing undue hardship to its citizens. It needs to reduce spending to get its finances in order. However, these measures are often unpopular and can lead to public discontent. Protests have erupted in various parts of the country, with people expressing their frustration over the economic situation and the government's handling of it. Finding the right balance between fiscal responsibility and social protection is crucial for Egypt's stability. The government must navigate these turbulent waters carefully to avoid further destabilization. Egypt's economic woes are a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of the global economy. Factors like the war in Ukraine, which has disrupted global supply chains and driven up food prices, have had a direct impact on Egypt's economic well-being. This highlights the need for international cooperation to address the root causes of global economic instability. Only through collective efforts can nations hope to mitigate the adverse effects of such crises. The global community must come together to support countries like Egypt, ensuring that economic stability and growth are achievable goals for all. Turkey, a nation straddling Europe and Asia, is grappling with an economic crisis characterized by a plummeting currency and soaring inflation. The Turkish lira has lost a significant portion of its value against the US dollar, making imports much more expensive. This has fueled inflation, eroding the purchasing power of Turkish citizens. The Turkish government has implemented unorthodox economic policies, including cutting interest rates despite rising inflation. These policies have raised concerns among investors and economists, further contributing to the lira's decline. The situation has left many Turks feeling uncertain about their economic future. The rising cost of living is putting immense pressure on Turkish households. Basic necessities like food and fuel have become increasingly unaffordable. The government is facing growing public discontent as people struggle to cope with the economic hardship. Turkey's economic crisis is a cautionary tale of how political decisions can have profound economic consequences. The government's unorthodox policies, coupled with external factors like the global economic slowdown, have created a perfect storm for Turkey's economy. Addressing this crisis will require a combination of sound economic policies and a restoration of investor confidence. Argentina, once a prosperous nation, has been trapped in a seemingly endless cycle of economic crises. The country has a long and troubled history with debt, defaulting on its obligations multiple times. This has made it difficult for Argentina to access international credit markets, hindering its ability to invest in its economy. Inflation has been a persistent problem in Argentina, eroding the value of the Argentine peso. This has made it challenging for businesses to plan for the future and for ordinary Argentines to afford basic necessities. The government has implemented various economic plans, but none have been able to break the cycle of debt and inflation. The social consequences of Argentina's economic woes are severe. Poverty rates are high, and many Argentines struggle to make ends meet. The economic crisis has also fueled political instability, with different governments struggling to find solutions. Argentina's experience serves as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of unsustainable debt levels. It highlights the need for responsible fiscal policies, sound economic management, and a commitment to addressing structural issues that hinder long-term growth. Section 5, Lebanon's downward spiral, a nation in distress. Lebanon, once known as the Switzerland of the Middle East, is now facing an economic meltdown of catastrophic proportions. The country, which was once a beacon of prosperity and cultural vibrancy, has seen its fortunes reversed in a dramatic and heartbreaking fashion. The country's financial system has collapsed, its currency has gone into freefall, and its people are grappling with hyperinflation and widespread shortages. Daily life has become a struggle for survival, with many unable to meet even their most basic needs. The Lebanese pound has lost over 90% of its value against the US dollar, a staggering decline that has left the economy in tatters, wiping out the savings of countless citizens. Families who once enjoyed a comfortable lifestyle are now plunged into poverty, their financial security shattered. Banks have imposed strict capital controls, limiting access to people's own money. This has led to widespread frustration and desperation, as people are unable to withdraw their own funds to pay for necessities. The cost of basic goods has skyrocketed, making it nearly impossible for many to afford food, medicine, and other essentials. Shelves in supermarkets are often empty, and the prices of available goods are beyond the reach of the average citizen. The Lebanese government, plagued by corruption and mismanagement, has been slow to respond to the crisis. Their inaction and inability to implement effective policies have only exacerbated the situation. This has further eroded public trust and fueled anger and frustration among the Lebanese people. The sense of betrayal and abandonment is palpable, as citizens feel their leaders have failed them. The situation has led to widespread protests and calls for political and economic reforms. People from all walks of life have taken to the streets, demanding change and accountability from their leaders. Lebanon's economic collapse is a tragedy of immense proportions. The once thriving nation now lies in ruins, its infrastructure crumbling and its people in despair. It is a stark reminder of how quickly economic stability can unravel, especially in the absence of sound governance, transparency, and accountability. The lessons from Lebanon's plight are a cautionary tale for the world. The international community has a moral obligation to assist Lebanon in its time of need, providing humanitarian aid and support to alleviate the suffering. But true recovery will require a concerted effort from Lebanon's leaders to implement meaningful reforms. Only through genuine commitment to change can Lebanon hope to rebuild and restore its former glory. The COVID-19 pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and rising interest rates have all taken their toll. These shocks have exposed the weaknesses in the global financial system. The situation is complex. There are no easy answers. But one thing is clear. We cannot afford to ignore this crisis. We must act now to prevent a global economic catastrophe. The COVID-19 pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and rising interest rates have all taken their toll. These shocks have exposed the weaknesses in the global financial system. The situation is complex. There are no easy answers. But one thing is clear. We cannot afford to ignore this crisis. We must act now to prevent a global economic catastrophe. The COVID-19 pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and rising interest rates have all taken their toll. These shocks have exposed the weaknesses in the global financial system. The situation is complex. There are no easy answers. But one thing is clear. We cannot afford to ignore this crisis. We must act now to prevent a global economic catastrophe. The COVID-19 pandemic, the war in Ukraine, and rising interest rates have all taken their toll. These shocks have exposed the weaknesses in the global financial system. The situation is complex. There are no easy answers. But one thing is clear. We cannot afford to ignore this crisis. We must act now to prevent a global economic catastrophe.